Officer Wilson said that he had a clear conscience about what happened that day. If he had to do it again, he would. What's your response to that?
He's a murderer. That's what that tells me.
What does that tell you, Leslie?
I hope the Lord have mercy on his soul.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Joining us now is a defense attorney at the Claypool Law Firm, Brian Claypool. Hello, sir.
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for taking the time. Welcome to the show. All right, let's talk about, why don't we start with the latest news first, and that is the talk now that they may be looking to prosecute the stepfather of Michael Brown for incitement. Of course, after the grand jury announcement came down, he was seen standing, hugging Michael Brown's mother, and then turning around and defiantly shouting to burn this bitch down, and repeated it several times. And I guess by all legal definitions, that's inciting to riot. What's your take on that?
Well, you can look at it two ways. Legally, it probably is inciting a riot, but politically, is that the correct thing to do right now? Probably not. I think the police department and the prosecutor in St. Louis County ought to focus more on improving race relations and also using the Michael Brown shooting as a platform to make some reform within police practices.
Well, all right. Okay. So your logic is the guy broke the law, might be responsible for innocent citizens being hurt, having their businesses burnt down. Some of them may even be black, but that's okay, or that's against the law. But we don't want to incite anybody or offend anybody, so let that go. I mean, what kind of society would we be living in if that's the case?
Well, I mean, the situation is already so bad there that if you arrest Ferguson, or if you arrest Mike Brown's stepfather, is that going to incite further rioting? So you have to ask yourself that question. I'm not saying what he did is right, but I'm saying anytime you're making a decision on whether you're going to arrest somebody and prosecute them, the reality of the world we live in is you have to look at it from a practical standpoint, which is legal, and then look at it from a political standpoint. Is that politically correct right now? No. Legally, is it correct? Yes, to prosecute him. But all I'm saying is that you need to factor in another fact too. You might want to look at here is, would people have engaged in rioting irrespective of what the stepfather did? I think the answer to that question is yes. I mean, he didn't take lighter fluid and hand it out to people and say, here, go burn down this business.
All right, but Brian, let me ask you this. So would you also extend this to the rioters, the looters, whose faces were clearly on cameras after they were carrying out their bounties from the stores they looted and burnt to the ground? Would you go after them, or would you not
Absolutely.
go after them too because of political correctness? I
would go after them. I would go after the people that are dumb enough and disrespectful enough to go out and damage the business, the businesses of hardworking folks in Ferguson. Yes, I would go after them, but to try to, in my opinion, to beat a dead horse here and to lose focus really on what the real issue is by going after the stepfather, I think that's the wrong course of action. He didn't.
Well,
the stepfather.
you think, yeah.
He didn't put a gun to these people's heads and say, "Go out and burn up this business." The people who are on camera, who are doing the looting and setting ablaze businesses in Ferguson, need to be prosecuted. Let me make that clear. The only reason I'm suggesting that he probably shouldn't be prosecuted is because of the racial tension and the rioting.
Right. You're afraid it'll lead to more thugs taking to the street and committing more crimes.
Yeah, absolutely. People are always looking for a reason to go out and create chaos. and that's what I think
Well, all right,
happened.
Brian. Well, to me, that's not the country I grew up in or want to live in or have my son live in. I want law and order and political correctness be damned. But stay where you are. We have another segment. I want to get to the specifics of what you think needs to be done and what was wrong in Ferguson. And if we have time, touch on the Cleveland case as well, where, for those who don't know, there was a 12-year-old boy who was black, who was shot by police, who were responding to a 911 call about a man with a gun. We'll get to that if we have time. Brian Claypool is here, defense attorney at the Claypool Law Firm, and we will continue our conversation. It's very interesting. Glad to have Brian aboard. Hope he'll come back many more times, but stay where you are, Brian, and stay where you are, folks at home. We're coming back with part 2. Don't go away. All right, ladies and gentlemen, back with part 2. Brian Claypool, defense attorney at the Claypool Law Firm. Brian, thanks for sticking around. All right, so let me ask you, what do you think Officer Wilson did wrong in Ferguson?
Sure, and before I answer that, I just want to caveat by saying I think that the grand jury's decision was correct, given the totality of the circumstances. With that said, though, we've got to learn from this. This is a teachable moment, and I think that Wilson, when he first sees Mike Brown and his cohort, he should have had a more respectful tone when he approached these guys. Like, hey, what are you guys doing? What's going on? Why are y'all walking in the middle of the street? Let's chat, instead of talking in a more belligerent manner and then using his patrol car, to pretty much block off these two guys, Brown and his buddy, to a point where Wilson wasn't even able to get out of the car. Because if you think about it, we don't know, we may never know, but that might have actually precipitated this confrontation initially between Wilson and Mike Brown. Maybe Mike Brown was pinned in. We know Wilson was pinned in the car, and that led to a fight. But I think that's the first thing we need to learn from this. The second thing that I think was really done improper was Wilson getting out of the patrol car after Brown's running away, and he starts shooting. He's shooting at Mike Brown in the middle of a residential area. And
Wait, time out. He didn't shoot at him as he was running away.
Yeah, that's what that's my understanding. He did shoot as he was running away.
No. He told him to stop. He told him to stop. He went after him with his gun drawn, told him to stop, and then he turned around and then shot at him when he was fired all the shots off when he was charging back at him. Look, you're making excuses for a thug. You're making excuses for a thug who was high on marijuana, or at least had marijuana in his system, just robbed a store. The officer knew he was a suspect in that robbery. The officer doesn't have to say, hey guys, you want to come and chat? What is that? They're committing a crime by walking in the middle of the street. The cop says, move. So you move. You don't beat up a cop. I mean, this is lunacy, Brian, with all due respect.
Well, can I get a word in? Yeah, I agree. I agree that you should never assault a police officer. And I already told you that I think the failure to indict was the proper ruling. Because by my count, Mike Brown had committed 4 felonies at the time he was shot. He robbed a liquor store. He committed an aggravated battery on a police officer, which is a serious felony in Missouri. Committed an aggravated assault, and he evaded police. That's 4 felonies. I get that. Okay, I agree with you on that. All I'm trying to say is, what can we learn from this? I'm not making excuses for Mike Brown. He was irresponsible. Never punch a cop. What I'm saying is this. By the way, I've been a civil rights litigator for the past decade. I've been involved in at least 10 shooting death cases. And I will tell you, in a lot of those cases, the shooting could have been avoided if police officers call for backup. Call for backup. So
he did call for backup.
Now, let me finish. Okay, great. And you know what Wilson said in his statement? What did he say? He said, I knew backup was right around the corner. And I've seen that in too many cases. Backup was right around the corner. So I ended up seeing cops killing suspects when backup is arriving. The first thing the police need to do is contain the situation, establish a perimeter.
But Brian, this happened in 90 seconds from the time he drove up. 90 seconds. He was attacked almost immediately. Should he let the felon flee and maybe hurt some innocent person? Then you'd be saying the white cop didn't care about the black neighborhood.
Well, if that's a great question. If there is evidence that the suspect had a weapon on during that confrontation.
No. There's no evidence, but there's no but Brian, you should know this better than me. There's no evidence to the contrary. You don't know until you cuff this man whether he has a weapon.
Okay, here's the counter to that, because I've done this for 10 years. I studied police practices. You never run into a danger zone. Are you familiar with the danger zone? Within 20 feet of a suspect?
He didn't run into a danger zone.
He ran right after.
He asked 2 young men to get off the street. Yes, after he was beaten up, he went after the felon. Let me just say something, Brian. You know what? You said something, but I've never heard it from anyone with your point of view. And this is the problem. I haven't heard it from the president, from the attorney general, from anybody on the left, from Sonny Hostin, from any of these people. You never hit a cop. And when a cop tells you to do something, you do it. And you know that 98% of all these police shootings of black men or young men could be avoided if they didn't disobey a cop, either by putting their hands in their pocket instead of... Don't disobey a cop and don't hit a cop. I don't hear it from anybody except from you. Brian, I thank you. I got to go. Yeah. We'll have you back.
Yeah, no
Dennis Michael
Lynch
is next.